Indians and Redskins. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So this just come up last night, man, because I went to Lamar High School. Lamar High School's mascot was the Redskins.
Redskins.
Was it?
Yep. Lamar Redskins. Redskins, for those who may not know, is an extremely racist term in reference to Native Americans and scalping Native Americans. Basically genocide. It's an homage to genocide. that's what Redskins is. And so after years and years of fighting, the Washington Reds. So Lamar changed their name 5 years ago to the Lamar Texans, which I could have done better on that with the name. But anyway, they changed the name 5 years ago. And the Washington Redskins, after years of saying, no, we're not changing it. After the George Floyd murder and everybody up in arms, they finally decided, okay, well, I guess we have to do something now. And they changed their name, to the Washington football team. I think that's a temporary name. I think they're going to get a real name eventually. But, they got enough pressure where they said, we're not keeping this name and this racist name and this mascot. So, in the past couple, I think this week or last week, the Cleveland Indians, the name itself, isn't racist to me. Well, I'm not Native American.
It is. I'm
not arguing that part. But of course, I've seen their mascot. And it's the same, Indian, stereotypical, like a Sambo character that I do that for Black people. So the same thing. And so they've decided that they're going to change their name. I haven't heard their new name yet, but they decided Cleveland Indians isn't, we can't roll like that. So the reason why this came up is a couple friends of mine, a friend of mine who I went to Lamar High School, Lamar Redskins with, made a post late last night talking about how, have you been to the Lamar alumni group lately? I had to see what they're talking about because the people are up in arms about the name. So again, Lamar changed their name 5 years ago. So what, they didn't make noise about it 5 years ago, but now they've decided, this political correctness, this is nonsense, and it's not offensive, like telling other people should be offensive to them or not. And it's just it's basically a bunch of, and so what I think has changed within those 5 years is basically who is at the head of the government right now. And because for one, he said it when the Cleveland Indians decided to change their name. Trump, this cancel culture needs to stop. Cleveland Indians, and so you think of all Lamar High School is in the middle of River Oaks, right? Of the wealthiest neighborhoods in certainly in Houston. And so a lot of people who went to Lamar are wealthy white people, entitled white people. So they feel that they should be able to be racist as possible, and you can't do anything about it. So I couldn't even bother comment on any of those posts because I would end up staying up all night arguing with people. But especially let me kick it off with you. Is there any validity to the point that they say that, hey, it's just paying homage to Native American culture? It's part of our history. Why are we trying to erase history? Is there any validity to that? Or should they be sensitive to the fact that something that was cool for them in high school is actually extremely racist? Where do you come down on that?
It is, because people need to understand that Indians didn't call themselves Indians. It was the white Americans that came here called them Indians. They didn't want to be called Indians. And on top of that, they took it a next step forward and they call them Redskins. when they wanted to be derogatory about who these people are. So that's just like saying, okay, the Lamar blacks, right? And that is from calling them, before that you would call them the Lamar niggers, right? That is bad.
That's what they call us anyway.
Yeah. So people don't understand, you know, this calling them Native Americans, Native Americans just became politically correct afterwards, because before they call them Indians. These people didn't want to be called Indians. All their script. I went to Colorado when I was working with the state, and I went on a reservation. These people don't want to be called Indians. I don't know why we're calling them Indians. Right? First of all, they're not from India, right? But because
you know
they look right.
Until you said that tonight, I have never thought of the fact that Indians is what others call them. They don't call themselves that. I've never thought about that before. Yeah. Like, you're not Indians, you know.
It's just like the white people call us blacks. We didn't call ourselves blacks.
Yeah.
Right? You know, skin color is not a nation.
Yeah.
Right? That is just what they use to describe what we look like. Right? So you know, it's offensive, and until you understand that, you know, you won't see why it is offensive and why you should stop, right? Because I mean, it's been going on for a long time, so people think, oh, that's part of my culture. Yes, it's part of your culture, but it's not part of everybody else's culture. You can't put a culture on somebody and then say it's everybody's culture. No. Right?
Yeah.
You grow up, it's just like if you're in a racist home and you grow up calling black people the N-word. You think that's part of your culture. It's not. It's not. Right?
You just grew up around racists who wanted to be racist.
Exactly. Right? It's not part of your culture. It's the same thing with Fort Bragg. Everybody knows who that racist general was. And, you know, nobody wanted to change the name because, oh, you know, he's a cultural icon. Yes, for white people, right?
Yeah.
But you're not the only people that live here. You're not the only people that live here. So, you know, so you have all these racist generals who have statues all over the place, and they did such horrible things, you know, to black and brown people over the years. White people look at it and say, oh, that's part of our culture. Yes, it's part of your culture, but it's not part of our culture.
So that was going to be my next question. Like all the, you know, so this country obviously has a very, very racist history and present. Founded on genocide, built on slavery, and white people have been trying to hold their own ever since. That's the history of this country in a couple of sentences. So that means like a lot of our street names, building names, all these things are named after extremely racist, evil
very
people.
Bad people. Very bad people.
So, do you think that it is worthwhile to go and try and rename all these streets, all these buildings, remove these statues, or do we move on and try to do better? What do you think we should do?
No, we have to change. The culture is the problem, and that is what we have to change. You know, you have to change the way how especially the younger kids look at life, because if you keep these things up, the culture is still going to stay the same, right? Because things are going to be taught the same way. Yes, they have alternative materials that they could get, but the main part of what they are taught is going to be the same. You have to change that culture, because if you don't change the culture, you can't change the future or the outcome, right? It's just like, okay, a memorial hospital. You know, it used to be called the Negro Hospital. They don't call
What?
it that anymore. Yeah. They don't call it that anymore.
Hey,
Right? Because
on Nikki's birth certificate,
yeah.
you know, it for race, it says Negro.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It used to be the
That wasn't that long
Hospital. Right. So you
Yeah.
can't say that anymore. And a lot of smart people, you know, have saw it and said, we can't really call it Negro Hospital anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of looks bad. So they change it. Right? So you have to understand that we have to change these names, how we educate the kids if we want a better future for everybody, not just for some people, for everybody, right? So you might think, oh, this is your white culture, this is what we should do, we should keep it. No, this is America's for everybody, not just for you or for what you think is culturally yours. No, it's for everybody. Everybody
Man,
lives here, not just you.
so you know, as long as I've lived in this country, you know, 30 something years, it was not until about 2 years ago that I ever actually see Native Americans in real life.
Oh yeah.
I took a business trip to South Dakota,
Okay.
and that's the first time I've seen Native Americans. You know, so that does make you know how bad this country did the original inhabitants of. You can't even find them. They just kind of put them off in certain places. You know, in these reservations, you only in these places. But for the original inhabitants of this country, I mean, they really, you know, besides killing off, you know, tons of them once, you know, European people came here, things that they put into place ever since to keep them down. I mean, where you can barely even see them. Like, you know, there's that Chris Rock joke when he was like, you know, he went to like a Thanksgiving parade, and it's like they didn't even have enough real Native Americans in that parade. You know, it's like they had one Native American and a bunch of Puerto Ricans. You know? Yeah. So you know that's all this. And it's funny we should be talking about this topic because this glass that I have right now that I took from a bar in South Dakota. I like the glass, and it said Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But yeah, that's how this country has done Native Americans. You don't even see them. I don't think there are two of them in Texas, in the whole state of Texas. It's
there's a couple of them still here. Them
yeah, a couple. Like I said, two. It's probably two of them. Yeah, man. So
there's still towns, there's still cities, big cities like Oklahoma that the Native Americans legally own.
Yeah. Right. The reservation. They put them on these plots. So here's your 100 acres. Take that and go on.
No, I'm talking about downtown cities. The land that the city was built on is owned by them, but they got pushed off of it.
But if you think of the millions of acres that they had to themselves before, give them a couple casinos and say take that and go on. Jojo, what do you think? You've been busy putting work over us.
Whatever.
Let's hear your thoughts.
So my thing is, I'm not Native American.
You're not?
I feel like I don't have a say. Shut up.
Of course you do.
For people,
you're human.
People who are up in arms about it, and this is just an example, if Native Americans don't have a problem with it, why do you? And like you said,
true.
Why do they have? Sorry, my computer froze. Like you said, why do they have a problem with it now, 5 years later, after the name has been changed? My thing is, I'm not them, so I'm not going to be up in arms about it all of a sudden. I'm not Native American. And to take it a step further, it wasn't until I lived in Arizona, much like a lot of people who travel to all these other states, that I know about what really goes on in the Native American culture. I didn't know, like you, that they don't call themselves Indians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't know the depth of it. Yeah. And I mean, I admire these people. The ones I met, I mean, they were so kind and so knowledgeable and just like reserved and, you know, full of pride in their culture. And it was amazing. I mean, I've traveled a lot of places, and so it was nice.
They're reserved because they live on reservations.
You know what? Sydney Rose is your child. That sounds like something she would say. No, but seriously, my just like with African American people, if we don't have a problem with something, why would a Caucasian person jump up and have a problem with it?
I mean,
that could be anything. That could be anything. That has to do with us in particular.
I believe right is right, wrong is wrong. I can feel another person's pain without having to walk in their shoes. If someone tells me that they're offended by something, right, it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. They're offended by it. Right. You know, which is what I just said. Like, if Native Americans had a problem with, let's say, Lamar, Redskins, you know, and if some of the alumni were Native Americans, and it's the white people who were like, no, you know, it's cancel culture. This PC stuff has to see. That's when the Democrat, you know, and then they get all in that. It's basically just a bunch of Trumpy. You know, look, these are entitled people who haven't heard a lot of no's in their life, who believe that they can, you know, still call women broads, they can, you know, do whatever. And if you say anything against it, it is being PC. Every time I hear it, it makes my skin crawl. That's political correctness. No, it's just saying you can't just be an asshole your whole life without being called on it, you know? So,
what did Kalo say about it? She went to Lamar. AK.
Our only thing is we don't like Texans. It's like they didn't even try, right? I mean, it's like, oh, we live in Texas. How about the Lamar Texans? Come on. They could have tried like Rough Riders or Oilers, something, anything besides Lamar Texans. But anyway.